Welcome, one and all. This is the ancient journey. On today's journey, lost and found. But before we get started, don't forget, if you enjoy the video, please hit that like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to turn on those notifications. And if there's a story out there you'd like to see us turn into a video, drop it in the comment section down below. Now let's get started. Nicholas Aliverdian was lost in the system. A story that's all too common in today's world. Nicholas stated his parents were both abusive alcoholics who were unable to take care of him as a young teen. Nicholas was placed into the Rhode Island social service system in 2002. The Rhode Island Department of Children, Youth, and Families had placed Nicholas into their night-to-night program. They would have children spend their days at a state-run building and their nights at one of several shelters in Rhode Island. During his stays there, Nicholas stated he was robbed, assaulted, and constantly threatened by others in the facility, including workers there. He says he reached out to lawmakers about the abuse he suffered, but received no response. About a year after entering the program, Nicholas was sent to 2 other states and 2 other programs, Boys Town in Nebraska and Manatee Palms Youth Services in Florida. During this time, according to Nicholas, he was denied contact with the media, his attorneys, and even his caseworker. Nicholas claimed his removal from the state was because he was making too much noise about the conditions of the Rhode Island system, but Rhode Island claims they had no knowledge of his mistreatment. Just 2 years after his placement at Manatee Palms, Rhode Island pulled all children from the program in Florida due to their claimed mistreatment of their clients. Nicholas was returned to Rhode Island and received treatment for 2 weeks at a hospital and then placed in an independent living program. Nicholas claimed he was beaten every day in each of the programs he was in. So in 2011, Nicholas files a federal lawsuit against the Rhode Island Department of Children and Youth, the states of Florida and Nebraska, 6 residential facilities, and 18 individuals who were employed there for the alleged abuse committed against him. 2 years later, the lawsuit is settled in exchange for Rhode Island waiving a $200,000 lien against Nicholas for medical expenses he incurred while in custody of the state. In the end, it's unclear what Nicholas received from the lawsuit, but the DCYF denied any liability regarding the allegations. The state of Rhode Island and its employees were released from liability as well. In 2011, Nicholas was able to begin to influence the Rhode Island government to more closely provide oversight over the Department of Children and Youth to prevent more children from being put into harm's way. And sadly, in 2020, Nicholas announces that he has been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a form of cancer. Just 1 month later, Nicholas is reported to have died by his family members. But it's not long until an odd thing happens. Nicholas has a Wikipedia page devoted to him, and someone's trying to alter the picture of him that's on it. And according to some online bloggers, the person trying to alter the page is Nicholas himself. Wikipediocracy is a site devoted to exposing misinformation that exists on Wikipedia. A blog team member named Michael Cockrum notices someone trying to replace Nicholas's photo with a photoshopped image of someone else. Cockrum says that the attempt was made using a Wikipedia account that had been created by Nicholas. Cockrum also states that he received a long email from Nicholas's lawyer about the claims, but believes that the email was actually from Nicholas and was received after Nicholas's reported death. So if it was Nicholas attempting to clean up his page, why would he do that? Well, Nicholas's Wikipedia page indicates that he most likely faked his own death. As it turns out, in 2008, Nicholas, then going by the last name Rossi, had been charged with sexually assaulting a college student. He was convicted of public indecency and sexual imposition. Nicholas filed a motion for retrial based on altered or fabricated evidence, but that was dismissed. Nicholas was now a registered sex offender. And then in 2015, Nicholas goes through a nasty divorce, where a court rules that he's guilty of gross neglect and extreme cruelty towards his spouse. Nicholas had restraining orders placed against him and came out of the divorce owing his wife over $50,000, money he claimed to have borrowed from her to support an unknown community service agency. And coincidentally, just before his reported illness and death, it turns out the FBI was investigating Nicholas for fraud. Nicholas was alleged to have opened numerous credit card accounts under someone else's name and had racked up nearly $200,000 in debt. In addition, Nicholas failed to register as a sex offender when he moved from place to place. Just like that, Nicholas is dead and disappears. Nicholas was reported to have fled to and died in Ireland. Nicholas told a Rhode Island newspaper he was leaving for Quebec, Canada. A Rhode Island priest stated that Nicholas had told him he had moved to Switzerland, and a state representative said Nicholas told him he was moving to Germany. Nicholas's former foster mother, his biological mother, and former attorney all expressed doubts about his death. And in 2021, the Providence Journal newspaper publishes a follow-up story about Nicholas, in which they state they've received a rambling 9-page email from someone stating that they were Nicholas's widow. Also in 2021, the Irish newspaper The Sunday World reports that they're unable to find a death certificate for Nicholas in Ireland, despite his widow's statements that he'd been cremated there. Nicholas's widow calls the claims dishonest and speculative, but her name is never released. She requests anonymity, saying she's received threats. She's also declined any requests to release a copy of Nicholas's death certificate. Sharon Lane, who is Nicholas's foster mother, reads some of the glowing obituaries posted about him after his death and concludes Nicholas probably wrote them himself. His writing style is very familiar to her. So Nicholas spent his youth lost in the system and now appears lost in the system once again. And despite all the good he may have done, his most famous appearance may be in Wikipedia on the page titled List of Fugitives from Justice Who Disappeared. It's fall of 2021, and a man is struggling to breathe in Scotland. His chest aches, his fever rages, his body is slowly being ravaged by the COVID-19 virus. And in Scotland, this man, named Arthur Knight, checks into the hospital, struggles to breathe while on a ventilator. The doctors and nurses there, while doing their very best to get the man back on his feet, have a problem. They have no idea who Arthur Knight really is. Knight is admitted to the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow, Scotland in November. He is quite ill with COVID. For the better part of a month, he struggles with the virus as the hospital staff works to ease his pain, make him better, and get him back on his feet. But there's a problem. Arthur Knight is not a real person, and soon Scotland police are doing a sweep of the COVID ward based on a request from police in, of all places, the United States. The Scotland police place Arthur Knight while still on a ventilator under arrest, and police no longer call him Arthur Knight. They use his real name, Nicholas Alaverdian. Nicholas is no longer lost. He's escaped the law all this time, only to be caught by COVID-19. Soon after, right there in his hospital bed, with police guarding his door, Nicholas has a video screen wheeled into his bed. On it, he virtually takes part in the first court proceedings that will have him shipped back to the United States to face charges. All that time trying to convince people he was dead, all the fake leads he sent, all the efforts to alter his image and clean up his Wikipedia page had all gone to waste. It was all for nothing. After all this time, Nicholas is found, his face once again gracing the pages of newspapers and the screens of televisions, and I'm sure his Wikipedia page is growing again, word by word. Thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing the journey.